Welcome back to Brashenomics. Heated discussion is real easy when you start talking about morals and obligations and real estate. And David Bell brings a lot of experience in real estate. He's seen a lot happen. Welcome back, David.
Great to be here, Ben.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. You know, you dressed for the occasion.
Well, you got a camera out here now,
I know.
so I got to do something.
I know. You can stream it live. We're on YouTube now. Pretty excited.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've seen a lot in your career. You've obviously been at it for 22 years now. Where do you see people and the choices they have to make when it comes to this? Should I short sell? Should I keep my house? Versus maybe what people had to deal with a couple years ago, 10 years ago.
You know, Ben, I look at this as it's changed. It's changed. I think the moral obligation that I think most Americans have, or most people have, to do the right thing, I think it's not that our morals have changed. I think our circumstances have changed. And with those changing circumstances, then you have to adapt how you approach that. When the bubble hit in 2008, my business, the real estate business, anybody's business in real estate, was devastated. And one night I was sitting there when I was just contemplating all this, sitting there realizing that if I had done something to make my business turn bad, then I deserved that to happen. But I didn't do anything to create, to cause my business to collapse when the real estate market collapsed. So what is my moral obligation, or what are my clients' moral obligations? I talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago, and his sister met me someplace and passed my name on to him, and he called me, and I sat down and I talked to him on the phone, and he's retired. He's moved to Nevada. He owns a condo, and he said, I want to sell it. And it had been for sale for a year. I looked at the value of it. I looked at the value of other things in his building that aren't selling, and the building and his investment is totally upside down, but really upside down. My advice to him was to walk away.
And it's interesting because especially when you have to start balancing moral obligations with financial obligations,
yeah.
And I hate to say that everybody has a price, but at some point, how long are you going to allow a house or a bad investment, a home purchase you made but wish you didn't because of the value now? How long can you allow that to almost handcuff you going into the future?
Well, you're exactly right. And I've got a child, and you've got a child, and you've got a family, and at what point do you say, gee, wife and kids, we have to move into the car now? It's a cash flow thing.
A lot more moral obligation to your family, I think, than you do have to a bank.
That's right. At some point, you have to take care of yourself.
And it was when I got into this with some people. I'll have them on. We'll have them on sometime, and we'll do this because I got really frustrated because it was like they take this high. Some people take this higher, holier than thou route.
Oh yeah.
And at the same time, if you want financial advice, talk to somebody in finance or real estate. If you want religion, go to church.
Yeah.
The moral obligation of a financial advisor is to tell people they have options, not to tell them which one to take.
And yes, exactly. But I think we all have to have a certain amount of morals, and I think most people live by a really high set of morals. But when it comes down to life or death, to live on the street or to keep a roof over your head, hey, to me, that's a pretty darn easy decision. I'm keeping a roof over my head.
Pretty easy. And even if it's not, maybe you can continue to make this payment, but it cripples you for the next 10 or 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And, you end up with a couple $100,000 underwater. I mean, it ends up being a bad choice for you and your family. It's not a good choice for the bank either, but you got to have those priorities straight so that you can make those. I think it comes down to the morals and to the values that you have.
Being on the inside, though, being inside of this business more and seeing some of the inside workings of how the banks and how this all works, the banks aren't being hurt all that bad by this. In some situations, they're getting their money back from selling the house when it becomes an REO, a real estate owned, when it's a bank-owned property. Mm-hmm. And they were also getting money to make up the difference between what they sold it for and what they invested in it by the bailout. So they did really well. In
Well,
many
and they get to
situations.
write off the losses.
And they get to write it off. That's right. They,
Bank of America stock's up 44% year to date.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
it is.
Yeah, I just saw that today before I came in.
But short sales are tough. I mean, short sales are, they're not always a great deal. People think that, I want to buy a short sale because I'm just going to get a heck of a deal. And sometimes you can get a good deal, but most of the time stuff sells at kind of market value. I had a client on, I know you never believe because I always have a client, but I always have clients. I'm sorry, I work. That's why you can afford a
That's
sport
good.
car.
That's why you got, absolutely.
So,
you got a haircut and everything.
Got
all of them cut.
We went into a house on Queen Anne. It was listed at $450, and it was a short sale. And it was like, this is too good to be true. I mean, this thing, it was remodeled beautifully on the inside. And I had called the owner to set up a showing, and he wasn't there, so I left a message. And he called me back about an hour later after we saw the house. And he said, "Did you get in?" I said, "Yes, I did." He says, "I just wanted you to know that we already have 6 offers, and it's already well over $500,000." So you think, oh, wow, it's a short sale, and it's really a great deal, but the market value is going to bring most houses up to what market value, or the market's going to bring houses up to the market value.
At some level, do you think the advertisements for short sale are false advertising because you could advertise a house price that the bank will not take?
I've seen that happen. And I've also seen where they advertise the MLS, they advertise, we have an agreed upon price. So the banks agreed to sell it for $1.2 million. Well, it's still only worth $950,000. So
screaming
what?
Deal.
Yeah, like so what? I was at one today before I came here on Mercer Island for 1.3, and the default on it was $996,000, and they have it on for 1.3. Well, they're going to make a little money on this.
Yeah.
So
what can people do then? I mean, if you're out looking for a good deal, it is sexy to go look at the foreclosure. People, when I tell their friends they bought a short sale, they bought a foreclosure. I think. I mean, I have friends tell me that. I have friends. But what can people do? I mean, to get those good deals.
I think what people have to do is they have to get somebody that knows what they're doing to work with them. So they have to hire a really knowledgeable real estate agent that has experience in short sales, that has experience in the market, and knows what to look for. There's certain forms, certain MLS forms that have to be filled out correctly. There's a new one that the MLS did on us last year, the 22SS, which is the short sale form, and they say in there, I'm just going to paraphrase, they say in there that the buyer has to or does not have to commit to the sale. So you can check will or will not commit to the sale, or so that you won't withdraw your offer. But the seller can take as many offers as they want, and if they get an offer higher than yours, then they can boot you. So you got to write in that they can take backup offers, but you're always in first position if the deal's signed around. So there are little technical things that you need to know about. So good agents really earn their money.
Going back to that, being able to make these offers or getting bumped. If somebody actually wants to go buy a short sale or buy a foreclosure, and I'm going back to this moral thing because it's getting me. But I mean, I would argue that if somebody thinks it's not moral for somebody to walk away from their house or do a short sale, then, I mean, at some point, maybe it's not moral to go out and buy one of these. Because, you can't go buy one of these and get such a good deal at somebody else's expense or at the bank's expense.
But I don't think you get a screaming good deal. Sometimes you do, but I think that's the exception. That's been my experience. I think that's the exception and not the rule. Like I said,
they're fewer and further between, that's for sure.
The free market out there will end up bringing a house up to the right value, and they advertise prices, and you can't take what a real estate agent says a price is. You got to actually do the homework and find out, is that the right price?
Here with David Bell of Remax. David, couple minutes left before we need to go to break. When you're out and you're trying to figure out, as you say, the free market, and part of your career has been built on helping people make the right offer on the right houses. Does if it's a short sale or if it's a foreclosure, does that enter your mind when making an offer?
Absolutely. And what I want to know is I want to know who's negotiating it. I want to know who the lender is, because some lenders are much easier to work with than others. I advise the buyer that you have to have a plan B and sometimes a plan C. And if you have to move in 60 days and you have to be living in the house that you want to buy, then probably you're better off not buying a short sale.
Because there are other houses out there.
Well, because it just takes too long. And what happens is you just get so little communication from the lender, from the loss mitigation person. They just don't communicate very often. And all of a sudden, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks go by, and then all of a sudden you get a fax from them that they want this. And then all of a sudden you say, okay, you know, another 2 weeks go by. Okay, we'll accept it, and you need to close in 12 days. Well, we haven't even done the inspection yet. So then you have to, you know, so it just takes a much longer period of time.
Little bit of a rougher road, that is for sure.
A little bit of a rougher road, yeah.
Well, David, thanks so much for joining us. As always, your insight is certainly appreciated, and it is a rough road for a lot of people, and making that decision or that choice on what they want to do if they own a house, and to potentially short sell it is a tough choice. And then if people making the decision on if they want to go down the tougher path of buying a short sale is also a real tough decision. When we come back, Wes Jones is actually going to join us, who knows quite a bit about short sales. In fact, they've done over 700 of them in the past 5 years. That was David Bell. Wes Jones is coming up. You're listening to Brashenomics.